Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John. We're still in John chapter 3, beginning to read today at verse 22. Now, Jesus is still in the area of Jerusalem in Judea. You remember back in chapter 2, he had returned to Jerusalem for the Passover. That's when he cleansed the temple. And then it told us he stayed there for a while and had this conversation with Nicodemus. And after the conversation, he's going to stay in Judea for a while and do some ministry. And that's described in verse 22 and following. Now after this, that is after the conversation with Nicodemus, Jesus and his disciples went out into the Judean countryside where he spent some time with them and baptized. Now John also, that is John the Baptist, was baptizing at Aenon near Salim because there was plenty of water. People were coming, they were being baptized. This was before John was put into prison. Hey, notice we are in the early part of Jesus' ministry, and there is an overlap in time between the conclusion of John the Baptist's ministry and the beginning of Jesus' ministry. And so for a time they are both involved in ministry, and the crowds are coming to both of them. Now you remember, John's ministry, his baptism, was to prepare for the coming of Jesus, whom he has identified as the one, the Messiah, the Lamb of God. But John's ministry has not yet quite ended. That's why it says it's before he's put into prison. His ministry, of course, will come to an end when Herod imprisons him and eventually, of course, executes him. But right now, they're both ministering close to the same area. Also, they're both baptizing. At least Jesus' disciples are baptizing. It's going to tell us that in the coming verses. Now, an argument developed between some of John's disciples and a certain Jew over the matter of ceremonial washing. Part of the argument was, why are you baptizing people? What does this mean? So they, that is John's disciples, came to John and asked him, Rabbi, this man who was with you on the other side of the Jordan, the one you testified about, when you said was the Lamb of God, look, he is baptizing, and everyone is going out over to him. Now notice that Jesus' ministry is growing. There's still some coming to John, but more and more are going to Jesus. And some of John's disciples are a little uneasy about this. They're kind of saying, John, you were first, but now he's gaining more than you are. And notice how John the Baptist responds. Once again, he gives testimony to who Jesus is. And once again, he gives testimony to the fact that he, the Baptist ministry, was all about preparing the way. We see such humility in John as he points again to Jesus. So John replied, a person can receive only what is given him from heaven. You yourselves can testify that I said, I am not the Messiah, but I am sent ahead of him. The bride belongs to the bridegroom. The friend who attends the bridegroom, he waits and listens for him. He's full of joy when he hears the bridegroom's voice. That joy is mine. It is now complete. He must become greater. I must become less. So once again, John makes it clear, I've always told you I'm not the Messiah. I am the one who prepares the way. And so when he comes, and he has come now in Jesus, when he comes, I must decrease and he must increase. Oh, what a great man it is who realizes his proper place. John realizes his place was to prepare. He's quite content to let his ministry decrease. He knows his days of ministry are almost over. He just wants to keep pointing to Jesus. He still has a little more to do, but it's all about pointing to Jesus. His ministry is going to grow because he is the Messiah. You know, that's true for all of us. Our ministry is to point people to Jesus. It's never about attracting a following for ourselves or about getting fame or attention. It's always about pointing to Jesus. John the Baptist shows us the way. I just want to point people to Jesus. And in our ministry, when we give witness, when we give testimony, whatever we do for the kingdom, it's all about pointing people to Jesus. I love John's words. He must become greater. I must become less. He's the one. Look to him. Believe in him. I just want to point people to Jesus. Hope you join us tomorrow as we continue our 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John.